What common sense is actually wrong? People listing phrases instead of common sense examples. You should spend 2 months' wages on an engagement ring as a marketing slogan. You don't need to wait 30 minutes before going swimming after eating. This was just invented by public pools to stop people bringing food into the water. Tilt your head back during a bloody nose. The concept of common sense. There's nothing common about it. Running hot water to pour grease down the sink drain. That water always cools eventually, and usually the same distance down the drain, where it solidifies, creating a blockage. Although it's best to never put grease down the drain. If you run cold water and run the garbage disposal, the grease will solidify when it hits the cold water. The disposal will chop it into tiny pieces, and it will float down the line, creating no blockage. Edit. Highlighted an important part and thanks for the gold. Do not ever wait 24 hours before filing a missing persons report. If you have a reasonable suspicion that something happened to someone, call immediately. Just because you're not fat doesn't mean you're in good shape. The customer is always right. Duck, no they aren't. Edit. Gold? Thank you kind stranger for whomever gave me a gold award for this one. I'm actually surprised at the amount of comments that I have sparked and internal discussion. I thank you all for the interesting views that I've gotten to read. An economy is not like a household budget. Sometimes, when someone is having a bad day, it's better to just listen and agree rather than offer logical advice. If you've been stabbed or impaled by an object, for the love of God, leave it in. While that object is in your body, it's essentially plugging the leak. It could be puncturing a major vessel or organ. The second you remove it, that plug is gone, and you are going to bleed internally like crazy. Just seek medical help. Edit. Wow. My highest rated comment is about what to do if you've been stabbed. I'm so happy that my years of uni and tens of thousands of dollars debt are paying off. But seriously, I'm glad to read so many people are aware of this. Hollywood does some pretty unrealistic stuff. But I always shudder when Joe Hero yanks an impaled object out of his body and keeps on fighting like it's no biggie. Again, do not do this. You will probably die. Someone intelligent about one subject is intelligent about all subjects. People apply this all the time when it comes to plumbers. Smart about pipes. But you wouldn't listen to them on healthcare outside of lead-in pipes. But put them in a suit and call them an actor. And they are clearly an expert in all subjects. Especially politics and healthcare. That birds will abandon their chicks if the chicks are handled by humans. Not they won't. Put the baby bad back. Edit. So about 73 people have told me this doesn't count as common sense. True. It's more of an untrue myth. But a nitpick. By nature of the term common sense, if it is wrong then you can't claim that it's common sense, can you? Just put a little in your 401k and spend the rest. That's just wrong. You want to maximum out that son of a beach as soon as possible. If you are stern with the person, retail worker, food worker, whatever, you will get what you want. We are more likely to bend over backwards to help you out if you are polite and kind. And not real likely to do it if you come in assuming your time is more important than ours, or that the world revolves around you. Probably not the answer you're looking for, but the notion that darker roasts of coffee are higher in caffeine content. They are not. The caffeine gets cooked out the longer you roast the coffee bean. The lighter the roast, the higher the caffeine content. Edit. Lots of folks replied about the difference in caffeine content between roasts being negligible and discrepancies between the density/weight of the coffee bean when roasted. Read some of those replies for clarification. My point is dark roast equals more caffeine. Good things always come to those who wait. No they don't. You need to be proactive. If you keep sitting on your grass, nothing is gonna happen. Edit. Geez guys. Thanks for all the comments and upvotes. But please for the love of God have mercy on my inbox. Edit. Oh my god thanks. But who gave me a silver? Ignore a bully and they'll leave you alone. No. They just see a weak target. Also, life is easier when you're young/youth is the best years of your life. Distance makes the heart grow fonder. Psychologists actually showed that it's the reverse, which is why LDR are very hard. Out of sight, out of mind is more accurate. You hold your breath if you run out of air while scuba diving. Wrong. Your lungs will explode as you'll float upwards with a lung full of air, and you probably will try to surface anyway, and the air inside them expands. The proper procedure is to scream all the way up to make sure your airways are open. If you're in a city that has a big issue with traffic congestion, widening the freeway isn't going to make it better, and it might actually make it worse thanks to induced demand. Common sense says sun isn't out, and it is cool outside. You don't have to worry about sunburns. Worst sunburn I ever got. Put ice on a burn. Do not do this. It can rip the skin. Do put the burn under cool water immediately. Edit. Lots of people are giving advice in the comments, but cool water is listed on all of the medical websites including Mayo Clinic and WebMD. If you're passionate about what you do, you won't work a day in your life. Wrong. It's still really hard work, even though you enjoy it. And to make matters worse, you might work so hard to the point where you end up hating the thing you loved. Edit. Gold. So flattered. Thanks, stranger. I do also want to point out that I don't ever want to discourage someone from pursuing their passions. I just to make sure they're aware of the risks, so they have a better grasp of these issues that may come along, and they can better deal with it. Edit 2. Platinum. I feel like I need to say something additionally just for this. Here's my favorite quote. Motivation gets you started, but discipline is what keeps you going. It's pretty easy to start something because you're excited about, but the only way you're going to see it to fruition is if you have the discipline to keep working, even when your motivation runs out. When I worked in spectator event safety, we learned, sports stadia, that when an evacuation is happening, the safest place to go to is the playing field, as it is usually open air and therefore low risk if it is a fire evacuation. However, common sense takes over crowd dynamics and people try leaving the way they came in, from the other side of the building. So this common sense trait results in thousands of people flocking into burning buildings. An example of this was the Bradford City Stadium fire. A huge chunk of the crowd headed back into the burning stadium looking for exits despite open air, the pitch being meters in front of them. Don't trust someone who won't look you in the eyes. Having social anxiety doesn't make you a bad person, and sociopaths have no problem staring you down. In medical school we are taught that common things are common, and that when you hear hooves, think horses not zebras, meaning that we should always assume the most obvious diagnosis. Medical students almost always jump to the rarest disease when taking multiple choice tests, or when they first go out into clinical rotations and see real patients. People think it's common sense that if you jump into lava, you will sink. This is wrong. You can't sink in lava. Edit. A harsher punishment doesn't deter someone from committing a negative act. Common sense would tell you that if a drug dealer is aware of a law that would sentence them to life in prison for dealing drugs, that they'll be less likely to deal drugs. However, research shows that people often don't consider the negative consequences prior to breaking the law. Don't go to bed angry. Me and my husband ignoring this rule has saved our marriage. Do you know how many stupid fights are caused by being tired? Going outside with wet hair will not make you get you sick. It will make you feel cold as hell though. Source: I'm Canadian. Have showered. You attract more flies with honey than with vinegar. Flies actually prefer vinegar over honey. The harder you brush, the cleaner your teeth get. All you're gonna do is cause gum recession. Edit. I guess this is a good platform to share dental hygiene tips. Brush with a soft bristle brush for 2 to 3 minutes. Don't do side to side motion. Make small circles on the surfaces of the teeth. Flick away from the gum line with short strokes. And vibrate the toothbrush near the gum line at a 45-degree angle from the tooth. Electric toothbrushes are great. They are less technique sensitive, and you just hold it over a tooth for 5 to 10 seconds without back and forth motion. Don't stick your toothbrush near your toilet for obvious, yet never thought about, reasons. To minimize group ingestion, stick it in a drawer, or get a cover for your brush. When you see an emergency vehicle with sirens on behind you, you should always slow down and move to the lane or shoulder to your right. This is exactly what you should do on city roads. But on the highway, you should never brake for an emergency vehicle unless they are pulling you over or you're slowing for a stopped vehicle. Braking in front of an ambulance just slows them down and creates traffic jams. Maintain your speed and get your signal on and merge as soon as you can. And for God's sakes, stop slamming on your brakes to avoid a speeding ticket when you see a cop. Just take your lead foot off the gas and slow naturally. Driving with y'all is scary. That people are good eyewitnesses. We aren't. Our perception of things sucks. We are prone to so many biases that we aren't even aware of. If I grade papers on an empty stomach, I will grade them lower than if I'm not hungry, and I will never admit that to be true, even though it is. Just throw your garbage in the parking lot. The cart people will pick it up. I mean, it's true, but at the same time, duck you. Cart people. Opposites attract in regards to relationships. Most of the time, they do not.